Welcome to the Metal Voice today. On the show today, we'll be paying tribute to a guitarist, a producer, a man that's been in the industry, the music industry, for so long, and he's been so much a part of so many bands and so many albums, so many touring acts that he needs this tribute out of respect for his work, his body of work. That man is Bob Kulick. A lot of people called him the sort of the extended member of Kiss, hired gun session musician. Nevertheless, Bob, who I've interviewed a few times, was always funny, and I like to always point that out. He had a good sense of humor. He was a firecracker. He was intelligent. He loved music. Yes, he was a little volatile sometimes, but man, his heart, he was very passionate. I think that's what the world was, passionate. With me today to sort of, pay tribute to Bob, got Perrin Wolfson. So,
Hey
Perrin, how you
everyone.
doing, man?
Yeah, doing okay, doing okay. Sad news that came down yesterday about Bob Kulick, and
Yeah.
I think you summarized it really well, Jimmy. Right? There's some guys who form bands, and there's some guys who are just go-to important people. That if you need a guitar part laid down really, really well, or if you need someone to come in the 11th hour and do some work for you in a quality way on a record, Bob Kulick probably saved the day for a lot of people and a lot of records. And if you just look at his resume, I think it speaks for itself. And that's why we're doing this show, because it really is an important loss for the hard rock community and the rock community in general.
You know, he, in a way, he got his due respect, and in other ways, he just never got that due. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
here he was, and I want to point this out. I mean, a super talented guitarist, super talented musician. And if you go back in time, back to New York, where he's from, he auditioned the same time Ace Frehley auditioned. He was actually, I think it was like right before him. Here he is, playing his stuff. The band was impressed at the time. It probably was called Wicked Lester back then. It was Peter Criss, Gene Simmons, and Paul
Mm.
Stanley. And then in walks Ace, and I guess Ace has got that sort of look,
Mystique,
style.
rock star. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Bob probably just was almost there but wasn't, and they pick Ace over him. So that must have been heartbreaking, right? But at least he could say he was there, and anytime Kiss ever needed him, right, he was there for them. Which I'm going to read, and I don't want to hog this whole conversation, don't get me wrong. If anybody wants to say stuff, I will definitely read the stuff of people leaving comments. Klaus is saying rest in peace, Bob, and Martin is saying rest in peace. This is sad. So anybody who wants to leave a comment, and if you could see anything on Facebook there or Perrin, feel free to read them out. Okay.
Sure.
Bruce Kulick, his brother, yesterday made a sad announcement on Facebook. I'm heartbroken to have to share the news of the passing of my brother, Bob. His love of music and his talent as a musician and producer should always be celebrated. I know he's at peace now with my parents, playing his guitar as loud as possible. Please respect the Kulick family's privacy during this very sad time. Any comments about that?
Let's see what we got here. If we have anything yet. No, no comments on the show
Well,
yet.
no, sorry, I meant from you,
Yeah,
Perrin.
well, I mean, look, again, on my end, first back to what you said first. We've all been in that job interview, right? Where, we love you, you're great, you're terrific, but, and Bob was, when it came to auditioning for Kiss, I mean, it's been on record many, many times. Paul and Gene loved Bob Kulick's playing, but Ace probably fit the bill as the rock star, and could probably be the space ace, whether it was looks or demeanor, the way he carried himself a bit better than Bob could. So, Ace got the job. And, you know, look at this guy's resume. I mean, step out of our metal voice world for a second.
Yeah.
The guy played on important records for Lou Reed. The guy played on important records and toured with Meatloaf. The guy played with Diana Ross and Michael Bolton. You know, not just anybody has access to audition for those gigs, let alone get those gigs. So you need to have a pretty stellar reputation in terms of your abilities. And then, volatile, not volatile, people with a lot of talent, creative people can be volatile sometimes. It
Yeah.
didn't stop these people from wanting to work with someone who was reputed to be a fantastic guitar player. So I think that just the resume speaks for itself. And then if you get into our world of metal that we love so much, I mean, Crimson Idol from W.A.S.P, Bob Kulick is all over that record. And I think many, many of us, consider that as one of the two or three
Well, here,
top most.
I'm going to show this here.
We
There we
love
go.
it, W.A.S.P record.
But I
All
guess
love it.
this is the revitalized. But anyways, I have the other one somewhere. This is the first one I could pick up. So
Yeah.
yes, I mean
And look,
one of the
Wasp
best.
Wasp was still important at that point, and Blackie Lawless probably could have got a lot of people who would have been willing to play guitar for him, or just be on the record. And Bob was his go-to guy. Uh, tribute records. Bob was one of the key people, who organized the Cleopatra tributes, which some people find them kitschy, but a lot of them are really good. So tributes to Queen, to Iron Maiden, to even country artists. A lot of different tributes that would put together different guys, and Bob would coordinate all that.
Yeah.
Jeff Scott Soto made a really nice statement yesterday that he worked on several of those tribute records with Bob, and that he really enjoyed working with him, and he learned a lot from him. Look, a measure of a man is what people say about him afterwards, and I saw Rudy Sarzo make some very nice comments. Ace Frehley came out yesterday with a fairly long statement, very, very classy, I thought. Again, Ace is also someone who is known as a pretty volatile performer.
Least, yeah.
And he could have considered Bob a rival, and he had a lot to say about Bob's talent and Bob being an important part of Kiss behind the scenes. That you have to respect what Ace came out and say. And I haven't even mentioned, I mean, you alluded to it, but, Bob's stamp is all over, for better or worse. Some of the live records, Killers, Paul Stanley's solo work. He was also in Paul's, Live to Win band for his solo tour. So, such an extensive resume. It's really, really quite incredible.
Yeah, let me just go through a couple here, all right? So we have on the Kiss website, Kiss Twitter, there was, "We are heartbroken, our deepest condolences to Kulick family in this difficult time." Gene Simmons says, "Very sad, rest in peace, Bob Kulick." Bruce, we've already read. The Bullet Boys, "Oh man, this is awful, rest in peace, Bob. Thank you for all your love, always gave me and us. We all miss you, my brother. Thoughts and prayers." Who else? Gus G, of course. "Rest in peace, Bob Kulick. I had the pleasure of working with him on Randy Rhoads' tribute album, like you mentioned there, Perrin, a few years back. Yep. My condolences." Jeff Scott Soto, "Oh, another peer, colleague, and someone I considered friend has passed. I worked with Bob on many recordings through the years, most notable the many tribute albums he produced, like you mentioned, right?" Derek Sherinian, "I am very sad to see the passing of Bob. I played on several tribute records, like you mentioned again. My condolences to his family." Daniel DK, as we know from Exciter, "We lost a great one. Bob Kulick was tragically left this world. A fun and kind dude." Tony Franklin from,
just look at the these aren't, these are, well-regarded people who are speaking about Bob.
Yeah. And let me just go.
You know what, Jeff, just in the last little bit, Jeff Blair, Doug Blair, who plays with W.A.S.P now, has to play some of Bob's parts. Yeah. Bob's parts has just come out. So Doug Blair, who's the current W.A.S.P guitarist, has just said, "Bob's leads run through my veins. They're in my blood."
It's true.
"I was already 29 years old, over the hill by those days' standards, and with what I'd say a fully established lead guitar style. When I first heard Bob lead The Invisible Boy from the Crimson Idol in July of 1992. I had flown overnight from Connecticut to LA to W.A.S.P, covered the lead guitar spot, competing against cool hip rock dudes showing up their pimped out rides. Learned this song, went in the ISO booth and learned it. Then we played it 10 times. From that moment was born a respect for a guy I hadn't heard of yet, and really, unfortunately, would never meet." And then he goes on. So here's the current guitarist from W.A.S.P. "I've never met Bob Kulick, showing immense respect towards him because he has the difficult duty of playing what Bob wrote and performed on the original Crimson Idol,
There you
night in,
go.
night out. So
Yeah, yeah,
there's, people who don't need to say anything, saying things.
yeah.
Rudy Sarzo, again, there's just so many of them. And, again, you don't really, when Les Paul dies, when, Malcolm Young dies, you get these kind of tributes. You don't see a lot of this stuff when a behind the scenes kind of person or a sideman passes away. But I think it just shows how important Bob Kulick was in the heavy rock industry.
Yep, yep. Also, this is a couple of guys, leaving some quotes here. Klaus is saying Paul Stanley's 1978 solo album is very much Bob's record as well. And that's a good point. A lot of people may or may not know this, but Bob, worked with Paul Stanley on his solo album, right? I think he just played the leads. Nevertheless, I'm not sure if he wrote anything, and I'd have to check that up. Apparently, if you could take a quick look at that. I'm going to take a look right now.
Yeah.
But he did participate, and his guitar feel is all over that album. And that was back in the day, those were big albums, right? I was more of an Ace, Frehley lover of the solo albums, but a lot of people love Paul's album, right? Bob played, I'm trying to see now, he played lead and acoustic guitar on the whole album. So there you go.
Yeah, he was great. Played on, and he was prevalent on his solo tour. He did play on the album.
Yeah. I'm kind of losing you a little bit of your audio there, just so you know, Perrin. When you're like this, your audio is good, and I think when you kind of move this way, it kind of fades.
I'm in the basement, so I will try and stay still.
All right, try to stay still. Other stuff he worked on, and this is a big one. This is huge. This is massive. It's Kiss Alive 2. A lot of people don't know this. And when I was a young little child, and I picked up my Alive 2, the album, the vinyl, when it first came out, and there's, the side 4 is all studio recordings. I did not know. And Kiss basically told him to shut up. Said, here, he did they go, play like Ace. Play like Ace. And out of what songs were they again? There was All American Man, Larger Than Life, and Rockin' in the USA. Those were the 3 songs that he played lead on because Ace, who knows where Ace was at that time. A lot of people don't know that. This is a monumental album, Alive 2. And that's why, it's important to bring up. Very cool little licks on those songs. And, definitely this album is a part of music history, right?
Yep. There's a number of videos out there of Bob playing in Meatloaf's band. Meatloaf would have a ferocious live band, back in the day. And Meatloaf was one of the people who actually let Bob kind of be in the spotlight a little bit and, not play behind a curtain, not just play on a record, but really get out there and rock, So, yeah, I mean, ferocious live player too. And, for as well regarded as he is as a session guy, you almost wish that more people would have let Bob take center stage and be part of the band and not be the guy kind of in the wings, because he was. And, but at the end of the day, Bob made a good career of it. And, what you just said, Bob, play like Ace. Do people think that's easy? It's not easy, A, to have your own style and a pretty accomplished one, but then also, have to kind of play like this or, to go think about how, playing with Lou Reed, Michael Bolton, Diana Ross, Kiss, W.A.S.P, how different are all those bands? How many different styles do you need to be able to adapt to play in those kinds of bands? And then, Milwaukee Tom, our friend, was talking about Blackthorn and some of the other things that Bob has done as well. And, we shouldn't overlook some of the bands that Bob led and was a bigger part of in various parts of his career. Because, Blackthorn, Skull, some of the other things he did, so some really good projects as well. If anything, it's too bad this happens after a person passes, but this will probably get a lot of people to kind of look up some of this stuff and give it a listen and discover some music that they hadn't really been turned on to before.
Yeah.
And then, we should mention, maybe Bob's last appearance on any record. There's a new Alcatraz record that is just coming out. And Bob contributed to, I believe, 2 tracks on the new Alcatraz record with, of course, Graham Bonnet, and I think Jimmy Waldo's back in the band. and a few different, and, Joe Stump being the main guitar player, but Bob contributed to 2 songs. So the last kind of work of Bob Kulick will be prominently featured on the new Alcatraz record. So that's something that people can check out too. And it's another kind of pretty cool name from the heavy metal world on Bob's resume.
Yeah. Also, and that's very good points. The new Alcatraz album that's going to be released, I'm not sure when, but it's coming soon. Bob Kulick will be on it, and Chris Pelleteri will be on it. I believe Steve Vai's on it, or at least he's doing something on it. Jeff Waters is on it. Just all kinds. I'm very excited for that one. In 1996, Murder's Row with his band of the same name that included David Glenn Isley of Gifaria and Dirty White Boy on vocals. So that was, I think it was my first interview I did with Bob. So I've interviewed Bob twice. And the first time we were talking about sort of the reissue of Murder's Row, which was a really great album, by the way. And we talked about, his years with Kiss and all the other stuff he's done. Diana Ross, right? Yep. Which he met through Gene Simmons. I guess Gene was dating her at one time, right? And that's how there was a connection. So my first interview was basically around that. And then I had a second interview, and you might want to check this one out. And it was very controversial. And I'm trying to say this in the nicest way. Bob sounded hurt. He felt minimalized. Minimalized. Is that minimized?
Minimized. Minimized is the right word, I think.
I'm not sure if I'm using the right words here.
Or even marginalized, yeah.
Marginalized would even be better. All these years, he was always there for everyone. Whenever somebody called, Bob was there. And he just felt by artists and, in the industry that he was kind of pushed aside always. And I felt his pain there. And it was quite the controversial interview. And I thought it was very revealing in the sense that he laid out his feelings all on the table. And there's a couple of jokes about it, but I don't think there was a joke there. I think it was more a serious how he felt. He really felt. And I don't know. It was very revealing to me, and I appreciate that Bob did that interview and he was so honest. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, having seen your 2 interviews and maybe, read a few other things with Bob, it seems that up to a certain point in his life, he was okay with being the guy behind the curtain, the guy in the shadows, the guy who gets the pat in the back, but not necessarily all the credit.
Yeah.
And then, once he got to another point in his life, maybe a little bit later in his life, he seemed to kind of be not as okay with, not getting the credit that he thought he deserved. And, there's so many things. Was there a specific instance or conversation that caused that? Bob didn't have an easy life. Bob has a wife, or had a wife, who was 10 years older than him, who had Alzheimer's, and he was the primary caregiver of that person. Like, there's, sometimes being in difficult situations or near people who aren't well or dying change your perspective on life. And it just seemed from the different conversations you've had with him and others have had with him over the years that he really did go from, being good with how things went down to feeling a bit unappreciated. And, hopefully when he passed, he kind of had some kind of a sense of how much his work really was loved and was appreciated. And I hope he passed away knowing that there were a lot of people who will listen to his music for generations to come. I mean, Kiss Alive 2 isn't going anywhere. Even the Queen's Idol and Lou Reed's records, they're not going anywhere. Meatloaf, the work he did, his life's work, it is going to be, listened to and remembered by future generations, whether they know it or not. So I hope he knew it.
A lot of, I think this is very important to also note. He produced the Motorhead song Whiplash that won a Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance. And you could say a lot about the Grammys, and you could say a lot about, was it the production or was it but nevertheless, there's a whole debate on this. He produced a song that won a Grammy for Motorhead doing Whiplash. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. I don't think it's a small, You can make fun of the Grammys all you want, but it's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's huge.
How many people can say it? I mean, it's a big industry. 1% people who work in the industry, no matter what part of it, behind the scenes or in a band,
Yeah.
can say they've appeared in some way, shape, or form on a Grammy winning record. It makes you pretty elite at what you do. To be able to say Grammy award, to be able to say Grammy award winning, producer or artist, that's something pretty key. And that should be looked back on with respect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if again the whole controversy was he a Grammy award winning producer or he was just the producer of a Grammy a song that best performance for a group. I mean, there's a difference, right? There's a slight difference, but nevertheless, he was part of it. He participated. He participated in helping the band win that Grammy. That's what I'm getting at. So that's a big thing. Then there's the sweet victory for SpongeBob SquarePants, which he co-wrote that song and produced.
Maybe his best paycheck. Who knows? Maybe his best paycheck.
Probably was.
Yeah, a lot of money in jingles and cartoons.
Other stuff that he's done. He, again, Killers. After the incredible album that was The Elder, which I do love. The Kiss came out with their greatest hits with, I believe, 4 studio tracks, and it was called Killers. It wasn't high profile. It was kind of like a return to form, and he played on those 4 songs, those 4 studio tracks on Kiss Killers. Now, I don't know. There's a lot of talk about him on Creatures of the Night and what he actually did. I don't know. I might have to go through my interview too. If somebody does know, please leave a comment. There's a lot of controversy around that, what he did and what he didn't do in regards to Creatures of the Night. But he did Naked City, the song, on Unmasked. He participated in that as well. I believe he wrote it or he played on it. We'd have to check that out.
He did a lot of appearances at Kiss conventions as well. I mean, the Kiss conventions became a pretty big thing probably in the 90s. And Bob appeared on a number of Kiss conventions, and he appeared on the Kiss cruises. Yes. And from what I'm hearing, a lot of people who've been on those cruises really look forward to the segment that the Kulick brothers would do, performing kind of lesser known songs that Kiss wouldn't normally play. And that became a highlight of the cruises over the years, from what I understood as well, which Bruce is now carrying on.
And just a correction on Naked City, he did co-write that song on Unmasked. So I'll credit where credit is due, right? Yeah, the Kiss cruises. So what Bob was, he was part of, some people could call him a session, a ghost writer or ghost player, a hired gun, or you could call him an extended family member to the Kiss family. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Because, as you said, Kiss cruises, Kiss conventions, he was always there, or he was there some of the time, and people embraced him and they wanted to know more about his participation.
Yeah, and Kiss certainly had no problem with him being there, or he wouldn't have been there. So, in that sense, they certainly embraced him as part of their history. Yeah. There's no denying that, or he wouldn't have been present at those things. You don't just show up, you're invited.
Yeah, so much great work he's done. He was 7 years old. He was born January 16th in 1950, and of course he sadly passed yesterday, which is May 29th, 2020. I'm trying to see all the other stuff he's done. He's done a lot. Look, I mean, I can't name everything he's ever done, but like you said, Meatloaf under the Bad Attitude Tour, as well as Bad Outta Hell. I believe he participated, at least some part of it. And a very important thing that he told me, he got his brother into Kiss. Hey, this is my brother. He's great. He's fantastic. He's like me. We've come of the same sort of talent.
Yeah. He just has the look, he has the long hair you were looking for where I didn't, it's like.
But he loved his brother that much. That's how much he loved his brother, that he always pushed him forward. And I think that was part of, there was this whole resentment later on. I think he felt, I'm doing everything I can to help my brother, but no one's helping me. You know what I mean? And that's where I felt bad for the guy, again, I don't know what happens, right? There's two sides I don't know. All I can speak to is what he told me, and I kind of felt for the guy. I felt bad for the guy. He's always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's not always, it's a life you sign up for, but when the dream started for him many years ago, it probably wasn't, I remember seeing in the movie Hired Gun, which is a great documentary about
Yeah,
sidemen,
yeah,
saying that there's the A dream and the B dream. And the A dream, of course, is everybody wants to be out there on stage in the stadium in front of 40,000 people or in the arena. And the B dream is you get to participate in some way and you're not in the spotlight. And, Bob, I guess, achieved the B dream, but fell a little short of the A dream. But at least he helped his brother achieve the A dream. So,
yeah.
that is important, as you noted.
And I think another thing that hurt him from the interviews I'd done with him, he got paid a very small amount to do, he was a hired gun. He was a session musician. He got like
Yeah, you got to hustle.
a small, and when I see small little fee for his work. Meanwhile, the album has sold how many millions? And yes, I mean, I get it. You sign a contract, you're told to shut your mouth, but you participate in one of the greatest albums in music history.
You almost wish you had points on the record and not just a flat fee.
There was a lot of resentment, and no one could say they put a gun to his head. He didn't have to do it, but he did do it, and those songs are great. So we could just remember the music, right? I'm trying to remember other stuff from our conversations, me and Bob. He was quite the firecracker. I always enjoyed talking to him.
We haven't mentioned it, but he worked with Doro a little bit. He
Yes.
worked with Tim Ripper Owens a little bit as well. I mean, again, the if anyone is not that familiar with Bob Kulick, look it up, because I mean the discography and the resume is pretty extensive and very, very impressive. We're talking about some of the bigger records, but there's a lot of kind of more hidden ones as well that he did some great work on.
Yeah.
And then knowing he was residing in Las Vegas, and I know a few people on the Las Vegas scene, and some of our Metal Voice followers are in Las Vegas as well. And he would be at the clubs and people would see him, and by all accounts, even if he was kind of struggling with certain things at the end, he seemed to be very affable and good to the fans and people who recognized him, and maybe he enjoyed kind of being recognized by people even though he was often the sideman. So by all accounts, pretty good of fans as well.
Yeah, Rich Cantino from Brave Words, one of the writers, a friend too. Love the songs he played on Alive 2, Killers, and amazing work on The Crimson Idol. These are great albums. These are monumental albums, right?
Yeah, if that's all you did in your career, that'd be pretty good,
Jeez, just give me one song and I'll be happy, right? Jeez. Anything else you want to add there, Perrin? Oh, here's another one. So as I posted about Bob yesterday, so I get a call from Thor. I get a text from Thor. We all know Thor. And here's a bit of history that nobody knows, is that on Thor's Metal Avenger album, he said he was going to produce Metal Avenger. We had lunch together in Hollywood to discuss the project in 2014. So Thor's Metal Avenger was supposed to be produced by Bob. And Bob, he's an excellent producer. Actually, Thor's Metal Avenger is a pretty good album, great production, but I'd be curious to see
what would it have sounded like.
And you know what Bob said? Here. Bob told Thor, and it didn't work out at the end of the day, just because of negotiations, nothing to do with anything bad or anything like that. It didn't work out, right? But Bob really wanted to help him write songs and play on it. He really wanted to participate on that album, and who knows what the album could have been, right?
Well, I'm glad you had me on, Jimmy. I'm glad, sometimes we only pay tribute to the big names. I think it's important that somebody, speaks up for the unsung heroes. So I'm glad that we were able to do kind of a short little show here, just so wherever Bob is, he knows that he was remembered and he was appreciated.
Yeah, check out the interviews I did and other interviews that people have done. You know what's amazing? Perrin? You said, we don't only do the big guys. This has hit the press. You're talking about People magazine, talking about Newsweek. You're talking about big magazines, or online, offline, whatever you want to call it. People have picked up this story, and I wouldn't be surprised by the beginning of next week, we'll see it, pretty much in every city on their local newspapers and national and international. This is a big story of his passing, and he's definitely an extended part of Kiss, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy at least, at the end, his last sort of parting, he will be remembered. It's stamped on the internet. He will be remembered, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I really actually hope at the Grammys this year, because every year they do kind of a rundown of important players in the industry who've passed away in the year. So I hope the Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences will kind of have him kind of remembered on the show when they do their tribute reel at the Grammys. He was a Grammy winner. Again, Michael Bolton, Lou Reed, Meatloaf, Kiss. The resume is extensive, so he should be remembered at the Grammys as well.
Did you were you a fan of Paul Stanley's solo album?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the second best Kiss solo album. That's gonna be a whole other show, and very good. It's very good. I'm an Ace guy, but the Paul solo record comes in second place for me, and I think Bob did some good work there as well.
You know what? I'd like to see what everybody's favorite song of Bob Kulick was, and it doesn't have to be only Kiss. Just leave a comment. Tell me what your favorite Bob song is. Klaus is saying, yeah, second best after Ace. I think that's the consensus in the Kiss solo albums.
Yeah.
Ace first, then Paul.
Then a big drop off.
Then a big drop to Gene. And then like in oblivion, Peter Criss.
Yeah. Like I said, that's a whole other show. But yeah, absolutely.
So everybody tell me what your memories of Bob are. Leave a comment of maybe you've seen him play a show, play a gig. Favorite song, favorite album. Have you seen him with Meatloaf? I don't know. I'll tell you what my favorite song are by Bob. There's two. It's All American Man by Kiss on Kiss Alive 2 and Rockin' in the USA. Those are my favorite songs. They're melodic, they're catchy, and at the time I thought it was Ace Frehley playing on them. Now Rocket Ride, now then I would have really been blown away because that's probably my favorite song on the album, but I love All American Man. I do like Larger Than Life too. I mean, I think those are three solid tracks. Some cool guitar licks by Bob there too.
And I'll give a shout out to the Crimson Idol. That I love Arena of Pleasure, and I love Chainsaw Charlie, and there's some nice tender moments on the Crimson Idol as well. So I'll kind of go for some of the Crimson Idol stuff that are among my favorites.
All right, and I think we've pretty much covered everything in Bob's career. At least from Murder's Row to Kiss to Crimson Idol to W.A.S.P. I know that Frankie Banali had a post because I guess they played together, right, with Crimson Idol. And did he play with them on the other one too? What was the other one again?
No,
Sorry.
They didn't play on Headless Children. Kulick, I don't believe, played on the Headless Children. But again, there was clearly, Frankie was in W.A.S.P. as
Still Not Black Enough. That's what. That's
yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. Still Not Black Enough. Yeah, the one after that. You're right. But Frankie was around when their band was transitioning a little bit.
No, Frankie played on Still Black Enough.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he did play. I mean, I guess there's always that connection, and they knew each other. I'm looking at all. Look, Random Blues Band. I don't know who they are, but Michael Bolton. Here's another one. Michael Bolton's 1983 album, self-titled. His debut.
Which was a bit rockier than what he became known for.
That's right.
At first, Michael Bolton was a bit of a rocker before he kind of segued into the more adult contemporary kind of stuff.
It's also amazing that if Bob would have come out today, and it's a look, right? He lost his hair early on, and I feel bad for the guy. I mean, I'm losing my hair slowly.
But he looked badass. He was a badass looking guy.
I think today, if he would have come out today, it's acceptable today, right?
Yeah.
It's acceptable, the hair thing today. There's a lot of metalheads who are bald, and it's an acceptable thing. Look at Rob Halford. You're not going to mess with Rob. But back in the day, it was so important. That was the difference between getting a gig and not getting a gig.
It was a big part of Kiss, I think.
I'm losing you, Perrin.
I said Bob's look is different than Ace's look, and I think that was a big part of the Kiss side of things, because Kiss, beyond music, is really about appearances as well.
Yeah, it's too bad. I wonder what character he would have been. I think I asked him that question. Can't remember what it was. The answer. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Leave your comments, leave your memories, leave your favorite songs. Thank you, Perrin, for being on. Yep. I thought he deserved a nice little tribute just a memory down memory lane, remembering the songs. And again, Alcatraz. And the reason why I'm saying it, I'm not trying to promote the album. I'm just trying to say that, hey man, there's some cool stuff out there still that you could listen
Yeah.
to that's Bob's.
Yep. Dig it up. Check it out.
All
All
right,
right.
guys.
Thanks, Jimmy.